correct, right?
And we said copy to us wrong. So they may not have seen it. Let's see. Courtney? Okay, well, good evening. We will call to order the meeting for Shenandoah City Council held Wednesday, January 26th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Call the roll and notice that everybody is here. We're going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then if you would like to stay standing with us, I'm going to say a quick invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the United States flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Dear Lord, we come before you tonight, and as always, we start off by saying thank you for your grace, for your love, for your forgiveness. Thank you for loving us perfectly. Even though we are an imperfect people. We're not going to be perfect tonight, and I know sometimes people want us to be and expect us to be. The best we can do is try our hardest to make the best decisions for the city of Shenandoah, for our neighbors, for our strategic partners, our staff, the great businesses that we have here in this community, all in an effort to just make Shenandoah the best place to live, pray, play, and work. We pray these things in your son's names, and all God's people said, Amen. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. As you'll probably notice, I've got a little frog in my throat, I believe, as the Mayor Pro Tem said. I've taken 6 COVID tests in the last 8 days, by the way, so it's not COVID, but I cannot shake whatever this is. So just bear with me as I probably don't sound the best tonight. And I may not talk all that much, which y'all will probably welcome if I had to guess. So we're going to move right into item 4, and I did have some folks sign up to speak for Citizens Forum. So I'll call your name, ask you to approach the podium. Citizens are invited to speak for 3 minutes on matters relating to city government that either relate to the agenda or non-agenda items. We just ask that you approach the podium, speak into the microphone, say your name for the folks on YouTube. Keep in mind that we do have a 3-minute timer. And also keep in mind that while we appreciate your comments and we're glad that you came, we can't deliberate with you because it's not an agenda item. So we hear them, and someone will more than likely get back to you at a later date, but we just can't deliberate tonight on the particular topic. So with that, we will call our first guest, and that is Russ Michaels.
Good evening. My name is Russ Michaels. I'm glad to be here. I operate a business down in Houston called Texas Interfaith, so I'm from Houston. I want to make sure that I get my request out tonight. I actually have a handout that I requested that everybody look at. It's called Tamina Road Lofts, and it's actually a senior development property that my group is looking to bring to the city of Shenandoah. And we're not asking for any support tonight. We're not asking for anything specific, but this is something that is very similar to Sunningdale that you had supported in 2013. This is a senior housing development that we're requesting support for a application to go into the state. We have the land over by the Marriott right off of Tamina Road, right behind the Home Depot. And we realized that it would require that we get a PD zoning designation in the future. And all I'm asking for this evening is that we potentially get placed on the city agenda next council meeting to get a support resolution voted on for our application to the state for tax credits. The resolution is at the back of the pamphlet, and you can flip through the pamphlet that we delivered to you all today so that you can get a scope of what we're looking to do. Again, I realize that the city of Shenandoah, after speaking to some of the folks at P&Z and also some of the folks at the city administration, that sometimes you want to have everything zoned and everything ready to go. We're not asking to bypass that. We're just asking to get placed on the council agenda at the next board meeting or the next city council meeting to have a vote on the application itself. And so it's a 94-unit senior housing development property. We think it would be fantastic to bring to the growing city of Shenandoah in this area out by the Woodlands. There hasn't been anything like this in a very long time. And after Hurricane Harvey and after a lot of the displaced apartments all over Harris County and Montgomery County, there just hasn't been a lot of units that are new Class A luxury apartment complexes for seniors that are independent living, 55 and older, that they can move into or downsize into, and this would be that type of product. I don't have much more to add. I'm going to save your guys' time this evening, but if I could at least impart on you that we would like to be brought up for a vote in the next council meeting, that would be great. And again, my name is Russ Michaels, Texas Interfaith. Happy to be here tonight, and if there was anything else I could answer for you, I would.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move to our next speaker, which is Dr. Powell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Dr. Powell. I have a medical office on Rayford Road, and I have a law office up in Conroe. I'm not here to talk about deed restrictions or bridges or stoplights or permits. I'm here to talk about what I perceive to be corruption in Shenandoah. You all know who I am. I've emailed all of you, and I got no response. I'm here to talk about Jacob Reavers, Lieutenant Reavers. Reavers was hired with a questionable background. Shenandoah was aware of theft from a retail store in a large amount, which in some jurisdictions would amount to a felony. He was refused employment at other agencies around the city. I believe one was Tom Law. He eventually was hired on at Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and then eventually he was hired here. He provided an affidavit in a case in Montgomery County in 2017. There are patently false statements in it, and that is aggravated perjury. It's a felony. I think the statute of limitations has run on it, but it's still a violation of the policy here in Shenandoah, and I've requested that a complaint be filed. I contacted the police department, January of last year, about a year ago, and I was informed that Lieutenant Reavers was in charge of internal affairs. Well, obviously that was a conflict for him to take the complaint, so I was referred to Chief Dunlap. I left him a message twice, no return phone call. Finally got a hold of him in February, and he scheduled a meeting with me at my office in Conroe so I could present the complaint, let him know what the issues are, show him the evidence, and then I would give a sworn affidavit with the complaint that he could bring back and he could process. I think we set up a meeting for March 4th, and basically what happened then is he canceled the thing, canceled the meeting. He told me that the city attorney refused to take the complaint, which is true. And Directive 52.01 says all complaints against the agency or its employees shall be promptly investigated. That didn't happen. Instead, he was trying to force me to go to an outside agency, and the policy, the Directive 52.01 is not, that's not the proper protocol. The city attorney basically was suggesting that the city violate the rules. And on the board's website, under you guys' name, it says that you guys share a common goal of achieving the best interests of the city and the residents. Well, I don't know if not responding to a complaint on a corrupt officer is in the best interest of the city, because here we are now today on YouTube and it's being told to the whole world possibly. So I'm asking that because the chief did not take the complaint and refused to, that he be terminated. The city council should be terminated. And I'm not surprised at all that they did that, but I'm surprised that the five of you and the
Thank you,
mayor
Dr. Powell.
did not respond to
Yeah.
my email.
Thank you.
And I'd like a meeting.
Good night.
I'll be
Thank
back.
you.
I'll be back next time.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move to our next guest, which is Esther Lum.
Esther Lum, 31 South Emory Bend. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Freedom of speech is one of our most cherished rights, and I appreciate the Citizens Forum so I can speak freely. Back in April of 2018, Mayor Wheeler said this about citizen feedback, and I agree 100%. Quote, "Transparency in government is important because we are not elected to make decisions. We are elected to represent people. Now, oftentimes when representing the people, you end up making decisions based on what you think that the people need or want from that input, right? So the only way you can do that is if you're transparent with the way your processes are working and you're getting a lot of feedback back and forth from the residents," end quote. So with that in mind, I want to give you feedback on 3 issues. The first one is the proposal to get rid of the city's obligation to provide written reasons for firing an employee. I objected to this change in the last meeting, and later, I conducted an informal survey with over 25 neighbors who agreed the policy should not be changed. I have no idea whether or not the lawsuit that's being discussed in executive session tonight is related to this proposal, but with this feedback, we ask you to keep the policy as written. The second issue is Wellman Road, which seemed to improve for a few days after the last meeting. But just yesterday, I saw cars literally parked in the street again. In my survey, I asked the neighbors how they felt about this. There was overwhelming agreement that immediate action is needed, and using the pool parking lot would be a great short-term fix. One resident even spoke with the pastor of the church next door. He's open to the idea of parents using his lot. 40 cars in the street could be cut in half by sending 10 of them to wait in the pool lot and another 10 in the church lot. This would be an easy and workable interim solution. Finally, the third issue I want to discuss are the ARPA funds. Last October, I objected to the city accepting these federal dollars because we need to take a stand against runaway federal spending. But there's another compelling reason to reject ARPA funds, and that is the strings attached. Treasury Department guidelines require compliance with all other applicable federal statutes and executive orders. This is the great unknown. And so far, there have been 70 Texas municipalities who've rejected ARPA funds, and I'm urging you to do the same. We are seeing tyrannical government mandates announced practically every week across this nation. And I don't think the risk of losing more freedoms is worth taking $800,000 of federal money that we didn't need in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. And lastly, Ray Orsak.
Mayor, Council, good evening. I also want to comment on the use of the federal ARPA funds planned for discussion in executive session. I agree with the concerns raised by Esther regarding the risk of accepting federal funds with strings attached. As she said, many cities are rejecting those funds because of concerns about those federal strings. But even if there were no strings attached, I am still very concerned about our out-of-control federal spending, which has resulted in our national debt now approaching $30 trillion and still growing. State and local entities across this nation receive and spend federal dollars for many reasons. Some of that spending may be justified, but we know much of it is wasteful. We have a sad history of politicians in Washington throwing around billions and trillions of dollars as though it was just a game with play money with no real consequences. At some point, we as a nation need to wake up before it's too late and realize we cannot continue such foolish spending. At a past council discussion on the use of ARPA funds for a proposed water meter project, I believe I heard the amount under consideration was around $800,000. Now, in the context of a $30 trillion national debt, spending $800,000 in Shenandoah, Texas may seem like a very small drop in the bucket, but I don't want to see our city, the city where I live, add more drops to that bucket, a bucket that is certain to eventually spill over and drown our children and grandchildren's generation if this country stays on its current course. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Okay, we'll move into item 6, which is council inquiry. Anybody have anything right now? Nope, okay. Then we will move to absolutely one of my favorite items, item 7, introduction of a new employee.
Council, I'd like to introduce Chris Haver. He's sitting in the back here. He is our new building official. At long last, we filled that position, and we got a great choice here. Chris grew up in Katy, Texas. He received a Bachelor of Construction Science from Texas A&M. He worked as an inspector, plans examiner, and building official for 14 years for the City of College Station. He owned a custom home building business. He has 18 International Code Council certifications and a state plumbing inspector license. He served on several state and regional boards throughout his career. We're glad to have Chris as part of our team.
Welcome.
Welcome to Shenandoah. Okay, we'll move into item 8, which is presentation of a proclamation declaring April 19th, 2022 as Arbor Day.
Mayor and Council, it's that time of year where we declare Arbor Day, National Arbor Day. So as typical of what we've done in the past, we will declare National Arbor Day as the recognized date, which is April 29th. I need to get you a copy with the right date on that.
Yeah, this one says April 19th.
It says 19th. I fat-fingered that. Apologize. However, we declare that day, but we have our celebration on March 5th because that works better for a Texas planting season. So this is before you again, and this maintains our status as a tree city.
Well, since we have a tree in our logo, I guess that's a good idea to do. Otherwise, we got to change our logo. Okay, thank you, Joseph. We will move to item 9, which is a presentation of the 2021 annual financial report.
Did you need us to approve the proclamation?
No,
The mayor
the
can just sign off
presentation
on
only.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just sign it.
Good evening, Council. My name is Louis Breelove. I'm with Brooks Watson, and we have the pleasure of conducting the city's annual audit for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021. Before you should have a bound copy of the audit report, and just inside the cover of that, there's 3 items, printout of the presentation as well as 2 letters. I will be using that presentation to go over the results of the audit. First, I always like to go over, just give you an overview of the audit process. So first, the audit was conducted in compliance with generally accepted auditing standards. There's a few key aspects of the audit that I just want to summarize here. So first, we do the assessment phase of the audit where we're evaluating the processes and controls within the city. We do that a number of ways, a couple of which are doing walkthroughs through those processes, evaluating what controls are in place, what checks and balances there are in those areas, and any mitigating controls. And then we do sample testing over those areas as well to ensure that the data that we test is in agreement with the controls that are in place in that process. We do what's called a risk-based approach, where we evaluate the various aspects of the financial statements, and depending on that type of activity, it drives the type of risk that will dictate what type of testing we do, to what detail we do, and the type of testing procedures we perform over each area. Next, we do a compliance testing. Here, we test the compliance with laws and regulations, things such as the Public Fund Investment Act, bid requirements, any grant requirements that the city may be involved in, things of that nature. Then we just call it field work, and that's when we're tying out the financials at year end, making sure that the balance sheet is materially accurate, confirming with third parties wherever possible, performing cutoff testing to ensure that activity is in an appropriate year and materially stated. And as we're tying out that balance sheet, we're also verifying the material accuracy of your revenues and expenses. Once we complete all that testing and ensure everything is in compliance, we move to our conclusion and reporting aspect of the report or the audit. And with that, we reevaluate each aspect of the testing to make sure that everything is to scope, and then put together the report and the letters that we have for you this evening. Next, to give you a look at what's inside the report. So the components of the annual financial report, there's the auditor's opinion, followed by the management's discussion and analysis. Behind that is your basic financial statements, which include your government-wide statements, your fund level statements, and the notes to the financial statements. After that, you'll have the required supplementary information, so things like the budget to actual for the general fund, and then the other supplementary information. Related to the auditor's opinion, that first item there are 4 possible opinions that we as auditors are able to provide. There's unmodified, qualified, disclaimed, and adverse. The city did receive an unmodified, often referred to as a clean opinion, so that's the highest level of assurance that we as auditors are able to provide. Next, just to give you some financial highlights, balance sheet for 2021, citywide cash and investments, you had just over $22 million. Capital assets, net of depreciation, you're looking at $67.5 million. Net position citywide was $72.6 million. Just for your governmental fund balances, combined, you had $21.9 million. Your utility fund operating income was at $946,000. Utility fund change in net position was a positive $459,000, and then citywide outstanding debt was 27.9, down $1.9 million. Next, your changes in revenues and expenditures. This is for your governmental funds. So a few of the primary aspects of that part of the report, your property taxes. There we saw just over $2 million, a slight increase of 4%, just due to the evaluation increases. Sales taxes, we saw an increase there of $1.1 million or 19%. Just a rebounding from the effects of COVID the previous year. And then the license and permits we saw was at $518,000. That's down $705,000 from the previous year. That's due to some non-reoccurring development in 2020 from Lifetime and a few hospital remodels within the city. Looking at your expenditures, general government was up $188,000 at just over $3 million. That's a 7% increase. That's primarily due to some fire safety consulting expenses during the year. Your public safety and public works were relatively consistent year over year with $2.9 million and $1.4 million in expenditures. Next, looking at the general fund balance. So GFOA recommends that cities maintain a minimum unrestricted budgetary fund balance of no less than 2 months of a regular general fund operating expenditures. And the city's policy is that it would maintain no less than 180 days or 50%. Well, for 2021, you had unassigned fund balance of $9.2 million or 111%. So far exceeding that minimum requirement. General fund ended the year with a net increase in fund balance of $1.1 million. The budget results for the year, revenues were over budget, or exceeded the budgeted amount by $720,000. That's primarily due to that sales tax. It was conservatively budgeted, and sales tax came back much better than anticipated. Expenditures were under budget by $486,000. It's a positive budget variance there. Your other financing sources, a slight variance there of a positive 6,000. So overall, you had a net result of a positive budget variance of 1.2 million. So assuming the city was able to accomplish everything you were seeking to accomplish for fiscal year 2021, that's a sign of a very healthy fiscal year budget. Next, looking at your business type activity, your enterprise fund, so this is going to be your utility fund, revenues and expenses. So revenues, 2021, we saw 1.6 million for water and 1.2 million for sewer. Both of these were up by 16 and 29%. This is due to the newly adopted rates for the year. Penalties and reconnect fees were down slightly by 6,000. Your groundwater reduction plan fees were up by 21,000 or 20%. That's to stay consistent with Lone Star Groundwater's rates. Your expenses, personnel, we saw relatively consistent, $10,000 increase. Supplies and services were down by 28%, and then your maintenance was up by 8%. Overall, things were looking good. I know that last year there were some concerns with the deficit and in the unrestricted portion for the utility fund, and so it was good to see that the health of that fund is swinging back with those rate increases. So headed the direction that we anticipated it going.
Any idea why 21 was so much lower than 20? Was one of those an anomaly? Do we know what our 3 or 4 year average is?
Say that again, I'm sorry. Which one?
Could you go back one slide? Sure. On the supplies and services, you've got a minus 28% for 21.
Yes,
Versus
so
20. Is one of those an anomaly, or do we know what the historical average has been over the last 3 or 4 years to know if?
I could easily get that year-over-year activity. Just looking year to year, we knew it was some non-reoccurring purchases for equipment. I believe last year was more than
a typical year.
Than a typical year, and I think it was going back to what was expected if you were to compare it to year past. But I need to double check that. But just from what I recall,
Lisa's on it.
Lisa's
repair projects that went on.
In 20.
Yes, I believe so. I think, I'll double check and I'll send it out to you guys, but I think there was 2 larger repairs that
So
we did in
21 is a more normal year. 20
I
happened
believe
to be a
so,
high.
yes.
Okay. Sorry.
oh, that's what this is for. Oh, sorry. Good. All right. All right, next, this is in reference to the 2 other letters that accompany the report. So there's, the first letter is a communication with those charged with governance. There's a few key points from that letter I'd like to hit on. One covers that the audit was conducted in compliance with all ethics requirements regarding independence. We didn't encounter any difficulties when working with management, and audit adjustments identified were corrected by management. So in the back of that, there is a list of a few adjustments there from the audit. Most of those are going to be adjustments for accruals, and a few of them are expected every year for TMRS and other type year-end accruals. And then the second letter is communication regarding internal controls. There were a couple recommendations there. We're always digging, trying to find something that we can see where the city may be able to make some improvements. Nothing stood out as significant. Just a couple of things, just from a accounting perspective, to ensure that they're following guidance on a couple of things, but no errors noted there. Yeah. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on those as well. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Well, Louis, as a charter member of the audit committee, me and Charlie, it's always a pleasure working with you. Your staff is very professional, very thorough, but I do like to thank Lisa as well for what she's done on all these things. And it's certainly, these wonderful audits that we get are just more proof of the financial transparency that we do have and why we do have a financial transparency star. So we are above board on everything here, and you'll find that for those that like to talk about transparency, that we are much more transparent than the previous boards ever were. Everything that we do is above board. All contracts are brought here. Nothing is being hidden. So when folks say that there's, transparency, what is it? Because we are meeting and exceeding all the standards.
Well, and just to echo some of what you said there, Lisa and her crew, they do an excellent job. She works really hard to make sure we get everything we need. We actually had a scheduling issue for another city and said, hey, can we come out a week earlier? And she made it happen for us, and so that was awesome. So they take their job very seriously. I take a lot of pride. And then the audit committee, lots of questions asked there, and so we've definitely gone over this report in detail prior to this council meeting, but happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Anybody got anything else? Joseph, you look like you might have a question.
I was trying to look back, but I
Okay.
can't get into Encode right now.
Thank you. We appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move into item 10, which is discussion and possible action to adopt the 2021 annual financial report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Raymaker. I have a second by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 11 is discussion and possible action to approve a new banking institution. I wouldn't mind if someone were to make a motion to table this, only because the folks that were supposed to come do that presentation tonight weren't able to make it.
Motion to table.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Broad. I have a second by Councilman Raymaker. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0 to table. Item 12, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance. Flip my page. An ordinance of the City Council of Shenandoah, Texas, authorizing participation with other Entergy service area cities in matters concerning Entergy Texas Incorporated, as it's stated in your agenda packet.
Motion to
Council, this
approve.
is our annual
Yeah,
ordinance.
housekeeping.
Yeah.
I have a motion by Councilman Raymaker.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 13, discussion and possible action regarding additional funding for the cantilevered covered police vehicles.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
John got it.
I have a motion by Councilman McLeod. I have a second by Councilman Moscato. Do we have any discussion, or do we want to at least just kind of vocalize what's going on?
I'll let Joseph tell that.
Yeah, so just real quickly, if you recall at the budget workshop, we are looking at an overall parking lot project. Council requested staff to break out just the cantilevered covered for the police vehicles. I don't say I made a wild guess, I made an educated guess. I was under, as you see, and so we're needing an additional $18,000 to build that cantilevered structure, to get lighting on it. And part of the reason this was needed is when we looked at where the gate placement will hopefully go in the future, we'll actually lose 4 parking spaces where the police currently park their patrol vehicles. So we looked at actually expanding a couple spaces south where there's an old abandoned dumpster site. So we need to demo, re-pour asphalt so that that structure would cover 10 vehicles. And that's why that's coming back to you.
Well, looking at the way costs have risen over the last 6 months in almost every area of life, it doesn't surprise me at all that it's different today than what it was back in the budget workshop. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 14, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, providing for the holding of a general election to be held on May 7th, 2022, for the purpose of electing a mayor and 2 city council members, position 1 and 5, and providing details relating to the holding of such elections. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Brought. I think I had a second by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, so what positions again?
Mayor, council members, positions 1 and positions 5.
Excellent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 15, discussion and possible action to approve the following agreements with Montgomery County for the May 7th, 2022 city general election.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Councilman Fletcher to approve.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman McLeod. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 16, discussion and possible action to approve the 2022 first quarter budget amendments.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilman McLeod to approve.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Rott. Do we have any discussion?
We have Lisa or go over that.
Yeah, can we just give a quick,
Yeah.
for the folks on YouTube?
Sorry, there's a lot of election stuff I'm trying to get through to get to that agenda item. Okay. So Mayor and Council, as you see in your agenda packet, there's suggested quarter one budget amendments to the fiscal year 2022 budget. There are for general fund, capital projects, and for water sewer. General fund is for some tree and stump removal at Holly Hill. The budget only has $2,500 allocated. This is a abnormal large tree removal. There's also a proposal for about $14,000 to do an LED retrofit over the Public Works building. We did City Hall a couple years ago, and this is just to get that into compliance as well. And then there is, it's not really a budget amendment, it's just a switching from funds from one account to another account to account for the vacancy that was in the building official position and reallocate it to the plan and review GL that was paying for third-party building inspections during that vacancy. The capital project fund and budget amendment just reflects that transfer in for revenue and the expenditure out of there. I put it into the capital project fund just because I didn't want it to skew the operating budget. And then the water sewer fund budget amendments are for several wage and stipend adjustments. And it encompasses salary, wages, retirement, and taxes.
Thank you, Lisa. We had a motion and a second, had some discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 17, discussion and possible action to adopt the minutes of the October 27th, 2021 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Have a motion by Councilman Moscato.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman McLeod. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 18, discussion and possible action to ratify the accounts payable for December 2021.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Broad. I have a second by Councilman Fletcher. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that brings us to our second citizens forum. Courtney, I don't guess we had anybody sign up to speak? We did not? Okay. We'll move to item 20, which is the city administrator updates.
Council, I just have one quick update, a reminder that we have our Holly Hill Trails Park groundbreaking on Saturday, this Saturday, the 29th at 10:30 in the cul-de-sac on the park site. This is going to be a quick photo op, so just to clarify, it's not an event. So we hope you can all join us. I know some of you have plans, so we look forward to seeing those who can make it. That's it.
Thank you, Kathy. Item 21, council inquiry. We will start with Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm good.
Good, okay. Councilman McLeod?
Yeah, just a couple things. I noticed there was a mention of the newsletter, and I think it's great we're finally getting some printed newsletters. I think it'd be great if we could get the electronic version posted like the same day it was mailed or something like that, so we can, and kind of promote that on the website. I mean, these very nice. I really enjoyed reading it, and people who read it also enjoyed it. I recognize that this is primarily for people who are less into technology, but it's also nice to read that kind of thing in a digital form. So
We can definitely do that, and we've gotten good feedback so far. So we're looking toward making it more substantive.
okay.
So
I like that. The other question on page 151 and 152, this is kind of a Lisa reporting and kind of see what everybody else thinks. You can talk to her about it. It might be nice to see the reserves funds are separate there, but to actually go ahead and list, I'm gonna use the term wrongly, unencumbered cash, but maybe it might be nice to have a second line there.
Okay.
Along the, we do finally have this, and I deeply appreciate the reserve balance. And I like the little asterisk that says, hey, this isn't all our cash, but it'd be nice to see how much, I'm gonna call it cash on hand or checking account we have, so.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Fletcher?
Well, as you can imagine, I'm probably not going to let a comment go that was made against our police department here tonight. So when somebody makes an accusation like they did that is so wrongly unbalanced, I think it's important that there's a little factual data that goes behind it. Not that I'm the one that knows all the facts, but I do know that there was a lot that was not disclosed by the gentleman that stood up here, such as his client is his wife, who happens to be in jail for killing people on our highway, driving so drunk in the wrong direction. I'm sure everybody remembers that cause that happened here in our city. But to bring allegations against our police department, against our attorney is ludicrous, because what was actually told to him that he failed to disclose was that we're too small of a department to investigate ourselves, and that you need to go to the Texas Rangers and file your complaint with them so they could represent your complaint fairly. So again, for somebody to come in and make the accusations that they made without, presenting all the details, and again, that's not all the details, but that's why none of us met with him when he requested to meet with us in writing, is because he was already told we're too small of a city to fairly and accurately represent this, so you need to go to where you can have that fair representation, and that's with the Texas Rangers or with the Department of Public Safety. And so he's failed to do that, but continues to want to come and make accusations that are not true. When we have a police department that does what they do for our citizens, our residents, and the leaders of that police department that have turned it around completely from what it was a year ago. Residents aren't coming in here and saying, my house is being burglarized and I feel unsafe, and because that would be unfounded as well. When we have a 79% reduction in crime in our city residential area from what it was a year ago, a year and a half ago, what are we talking about here? So, for somebody again to come make those accusations, there has to be something that's said, again, that supports factually what this is truly about. And so that's why this council did not meet with him. That's why our police chief did not meet with him, or our city attorney. And obviously it would be a big conflict of interest for, Officer Reeves to meet with him, since that's who he wanted to file the complaint against. So the reality is that if he would just follow the rule and go back to, outside of our department, outside of our city, he can file a complaint. And if they feel that it's founded, they'll come in and do a thorough investigation. And I'm sure we're going to see the same result at the end of that, and that's that, our law enforcement is upright and outstanding. And, so again, if he wants to come back in another citizens forum, which he said he would, then we'll address it again. But that's why, again, none of us met with them to begin with. So other than that, Lisa, again, another fantastic job this year on finances and continuing to keep the city transparent. You go above and beyond, and it's amazing and greatly appreciated. That's it.
Thanks for stealing my thunder.
If I can add something to what Councilman Fletcher just said, Mr. Powell's goal is to discredit Lieutenant Rivers to get his wife out of prison.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal.
Sure it is.
So,
And thank you for stating that, because I think the folks on YouTube deserve to know it, so.
Yes.
Councilman Rainmaker?
Yeah, I only wish that we could charge him with slander for coming up to a public forum and slandering a superior officer like Jake. and to come in here and just, bully people, I just think that's wrong. So other than that, I don't really have anything else to add to that. Other than, I know we're gonna talk about the trailer in an upcoming meeting.
Yes, sir, that will be on the next agenda.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Moscato?
I just want to echo what Councilman Fletcher said. I was appalled by the accusations that were leveled here. And I just want to make sure that our residents understand what the facts are and what the situation actually is. That's all I have.
If you don't mind me adding, this has already been investigated by Montgomery County, and we suggested that he go to the FBI or the Texas Rangers. And I'm unclear why, if he thinks he has a legitimate complaint, he wouldn't take his complaint to one of those two organizations.
Clearly sees you as a
Because
higher
it's easier to
source
come here and
than the
slander
FBI or the Texas Rangers, Bill.
Sorry, because it's easier to come here and slander people than it is to
Right.
actually do your job.
I wanted to say thank you to Lisa, her team. Is Louis still here? Is he? No, I guess he's gone. Again, great audit. As Ron stated earlier, we always have crystal clear financial transparency. It is funny when people throw around the word transparency, but I just think Lisa and her team do a great job of keeping us in line and keeping our residents informed, easy access to see where we're spending their money, because that's what we're doing, it's their money. And you do a great job with that, and I appreciate it. And I also want to say thank you for our sales tax revenue being up year over year. However, I was a little disappointed in you. I noticed that our drink tax is down, so you need to get the people to start drinking a little more. See if we can get those mixed beverage taxes back up.
We do have an election coming.
That's right, yeah. So look, Citizens Forum is what it is. We love when people come and speak, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. We're not able to sit up here and refute all of the things they say, not just one gentleman, but multiple people, and that's just the nature of a democracy, right? And freedom of speech is that they have that right to get up and speak, but just do your homework, and don't just believe what you hear. And I think you'd be surprised that there's always another side to the story. And for what it's worth, me personally, I'm proud to serve with these members up here on this council, and I'm proud to serve alongside of our city staff and our strategic partners. And I think, as I said, we're not perfect, but we're certainly doing the best we can. So, okay, with that, we are going to move into executive session, and we are going to discuss the Township Fire Services Agreement, the use of ARPA funds, and our former building official. And we will recess the regular session at 7:49 and move into executive session. Thanks for coming, everybody.